السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين وتابعيهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, today it is Sunday, the 25th of the month of Safar 1445, and this matches the 10th of September 2023. This is our session number 10, going through this book, فتح رب البرية بتلخيص الحموية. الحموية being the book by Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and فتح رب البرية, which is the summary by the Shaykh Ibn Uthaimeen alayhi rahmatullahi ta'ala. Now, the last chapter that we had, chapter number 4, was regarding the validity, the correctness of the methodology of the Salaf, and the invalidity or the falseness of saying that the way of the Khalaf is superior to the way of the Salaf in terms of knowledge and wisdom, saying at the same time, however, that the way of the Salaf is safer, right? So the Sheikh went through that statement and he refuted the contents of that, and we had 3 full sessions going through this. We had 3 full sessions, 3 Sundays, going through this chapter number 4. طيب. And I remind again for the brothers who are online and the brothers who attend that this is now, we're talking about something specific, right? So for those who are not following this, they might find it, we're talking about topics that, they find it different or strange, but this is not something new. It's just that some of us might not be exposed to some of the materials, and therefore I had to put this note here, because I know many people just go watch online, they find something, they just go and listen to it. We chose Sunday morning so that those who are interested will be listening to it or watching it, right? طيب, alhamdulillah. So this chapter number 5 في حكاية بعض المتأخرين لمذهب السلف, regarding how some of the متأخرين, متأخر is the one who comes later on. So we're talking about people of knowledge, people who are attributed to knowledge, who came later on. Later on, what? Later on. Later than the time of the Salaf, the first 3 generations, right? The first 3 generations that are the best generations of this ummah. So those later ones, how they narrated, how they presented madhab as-salaf, the methodology, the method of the salaf. Salaf being the first 3 generations. Regarding what? Regarding the attributes of Allah. All of this, we're talking about the attributes of Allah. All of this discussion is about sifatullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So remember that those mutaakhirin, those who came later on now, they are the ones who said madhab al-salaf aslam wa madhab al-khalaf a'lam wa ahkam. Regarding what? Regarding the attributes of Allah. Why is it they said that madhab al-salaf aslam? Why is it safer? And why is it that they say madhab al-khalaf a'lam wa ahkam? For instance, they come to the ayah, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa, the ever merciful rose over his throne. Right? To them, according to these later ones, right? Let me say first what is right, because we are, subhanallah, like the same thing yesterday and last weekend. about al-Qadr, right? Where the Sheikh Ibn al-Qayyim is presenting the wrong idea, then he's refuting it. So if you are from the YouTubers who just go to YouTube, listen few minutes and go, you might catch the wrong stuff and leave, right? That's why it's not advisable that you just learn this way, right? You will have a lot of, yeah, you will be misinformed if you are doing that. That's a wrong way to seek knowledge, because you are going to, right, get some things and not get the full picture. And then you might even go and say, oh, I heard they were saying this and they were saying that, right? They were saying that because you didn't hear the full thing. That's what's happening. So the Salaf, their position is they believe in the attributes of Allah. They affirm them. Iqrar, imrar wa iqrar. They accept them, they let them pass, and they affirm the content, believing that Allah, there is nothing like Him. So they believe that Allah rose over His throne, as He said it, at the same time in a way that befits His majesty, right? Without likening Him to His creation. That's the right understanding. But those mutaakhirin, why is it that they say, I should be asking you actually, why did they say that madhab al-salaf aslam, safer? Because they believed that the salaf, the sahaba, they just believe in the words. But if you ask them, did Allah really rise over His throne? Did He ascend His throne? They think that the salaf would say, oh, we don't talk about this. We just keep quiet. Right? We don't believe it. We just believe in the words. We don't believe what they mean. Right? We don't talk about what they mean. We stay away. That's what they think. Now, what do they believe about the mutaakhirin? That they say, oh, rose over the throne, this istawa has so many different meanings, right? In the Arabic language. Right? This is what they claim, although the context defines what is meant by it. Right? But they say, oh, it has the different meanings. So then they will say, since it has different meanings, we will choose to do what they call ta'wil, which we understood really it ends up being what? Tahrif. They are distorting and altering the meaning, right? So they will say we have to do this, because if we say He really rose over His throne, as anyone understands Arabic who will understand it, if we understand it like that, then we are making Allah look like His creation then. And then they start even talking more, that I don't want to go into that. How, if you believe in this, then you believe that Allah has this and has that, and they start talking about Allah like they're talking about a human. Dimensions, and this place is empty and this place is full, and like this, right? So then we have to do something about this, which they call ta'wil. They give it a better, right? We have to interpret it, which they really are altering and changing the meaning, therefore distorting it. That's what they are doing, right? So they say, okay, we will say that stawa, it means took full control. Took full control. That's what it means. So therefore, this now is more knowledgeable and more wise. Why is it more knowledgeable and more wise? More knowledgeable, at least you are giving a meaning to the words. Remember, they believe, the Salaf, they believe in the words that are hollow words. Words that really, you are really saying words, but blank. They have no content. So if you are saying this has more knowledge, we understand now. We are saying why. You're saying they have more knowledge, because at least They are making sense. Even if it's a wrong sense, it's better than not to have any sense at all. You believe in words that you don't make any sense out of them. Right? That's one thing. It's more wise. Why is it more wise? Because they say now they have rebutted the misconceptions about Allah. They now did what they had to do to make the people think about Allah in a good way. Right? That's how it's more wise, because now you can refute the misconceptions and the doubts about it. That's how they think. Right? And the Sheikh went through that, and the basic thing is that this is contradictory. This is conflicting. How can you be safe but less knowledgeable and less wise? How is that? Safety is for you to know what is right and to intend and to force yourself to follow what is right. Right? Because sometimes you know what is right, but you ignore it because you're following your desires. Right? So to be safe, you have to be knowledgeable and wise. And you cannot be knowledgeable and wise and less safer, right? Less secure, or insecure. Yet you are more knowledgeable and more wise. It just doesn't make sense. And then he went through the reason why they are thinking like that. First of all, they didn't believe that the ayat or the hadith have any meaning in the first place. That's why they ended up doing what they are doing. Right. So now this chapter here is just a follow-up of what was discussed before. You see, those people are Muslims, and those people are attributed to knowledge. So they have to somehow rationalize, somehow, make what they're saying sound right. They're not going to come and tell you, you know what? We believe the Salaf, they had this belief, right? And we believe it's all wrong. Therefore, listen, don't listen to them, just listen to us. We are going to explain it to you now. The Sahaba, actually, they are wrong. They're not going to present it like that, because it doesn't sound right at all, right? Although they are acknowledging the difference, because they're saying madhab al-salaf is aslam, safer, madhab al-khalaf a'lam wa ahkam, more knowledgeable. So they are recognizing that there are two ways here. They're not one and the same. They are not one and the same. They know that they are going against the salaf, right? But then now they have to explain why they went that route. So first, this is what they are doing. They are telling us now, according to them, what the Salaf are believing in. قال بعض المتأخرين, some of the later people, they said مذهب السلف في الصفات, the position of the Salaf, the companions and the Tabi'un and Atba'u Tabi'un, regarding the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إمرار النصوص على ما جاءت به, is having the texts from the Quran and the Sunnah, letting them pass. Amarra is to let something pass, right? Amarra. Imrar النصوص على ما جاءت به, with whatever they came with, the content, they let it pass. مع اعتقاد أن ظاهرها غير مراد, alongside believing that ظاهر, the apparent meaning, is not intended. Now we have to, we did in the introduction of the first, in the third chapter, nas, ظاهر, and mu'awwal. If you didn't catch those words, you're not gonna get this, right? You have nas, direct text, right? Remember, تلك عشرة كاملة, you fast 3 days في الحج, 3 أيام في الحج و7 إذا رجعتم, right? فصيام 3 أيام في الحج و7 إذا رجعتم تلك 10 كاملة, right? 10, right? That's explicit text. You have ظاهر. This is what we want here. Right? ظاهر, the apparent meaning. So somebody talked, and the apparent meanings of his words are this and that. Just like we said, the example of the lion. You say, I saw a lion. Right? So everybody would think what? You saw a lion. What's the closest meaning, the apparent meaning? The lion, the lion. So maybe they will think, oh, did you go to the zoo today? Right? Because you saw a lion. Or maybe you were watching TV or YouTube or whatever, and you saw, something about the lions and what do they like, how they live, and a documentary. That's what they will think, right? Unless you put some words that will make it understood that you don't really mean that, because lion you could mean by it a brave man, right? Right? Like they say, Richard, يعني قلب الأسد, lion heart. Right? And he's brave. So we had, if you remember that time, we had kids with us attending Salatul Fajr. So you would say, I saw a lion praying Fajr with us today. So now everyone, because you made this link now, that the lion is praying Fajr with us, the real lion, the Asad, is not going to be praying Fajr, right? So you understood you're talking about someone who's brave now. Your mind shifts to that. Your mind shifts to that. So now because of this context, because of this what they call qarina, like supporting evidence or indication, right? It alerted you that the meaning now, the original meaning is not intended. Without having that indication, you should understand it as what? As the lion that is known. The lion that is known. Now, if someone, the ظاهر, that's what is called ظاهر, the apparent meaning, the closest meaning that anyone will understand. The principle is that you understand the words according to that apparent meaning. Any words of anyone according to the apparent meaning, unless you have that indication telling you that this is not what is meant. What is meant is such and such. If you don't have that indication, that qarina, right, indicating to you that the original meaning, the apparent meaning is not intended, if you don't have that indication, you have to understand it as the apparent meaning. If you claim that no, it means the other meaning without any indication, then now you are playing with the words. You are playing with the words. You are misleading people. Imagine in a contract, right? You are buying something or selling something or renting something, and you write the words lease, rent. And then he claims, no, he means he donated to me. It's not really rent. It's a donation. He just donated this to me. He didn't sell it to me. What do you mean? Rent means rent. Lease means lease. Sales contract means sales. It doesn't mean donation. Doesn't mean a gift. Does not mean that. صح? That's why when you go, for instance, you want to register something, right? You have to say, how much did you buy this? Right? For them to calculate your taxes, if it's a car or something like that. Right? So this is the case. If someone says, no, this is not really sales, it's something else, without anything indicating that, it's a gift, without indicating that, and this person is misleading and playing with words. So what did they do how did they present the way of the Salaf. They let the attributes, the texts that have the attributes of Allah pass, right, with whatever they came with, alongside believing that the apparent meaning is not intended. This is what they claim the Salaf believed, right? So they would say, oh, الرحمن على العرش استوى ما منعك أن تسجد لما خلقت بيدي, right? What do they say about this? They say, oh, they let it pass, but they don't believe that Allah really rose over the throne and ascended the throne. They don't really believe that Allah has two hands. That's what they claim the Salaf believed. So they claim they let the texts with the attributes pass, believing that the apparent meaning is not intended. This is how they claim the Salaf believed. وهذا القول على إطلاقه فيه نظر. This, with this generality, this statement that they claimed, with this generality, على إطلاقه, with this unrestrictedness, just made it really open. فيه نظر. فيه نظر. When you say something فيه نظر, to be looked into, it means, is not solid, is not right. Right? فيه نظر, has problems with it. فإن لفظ ظاهر مجمل, because the word ظاهر, apparent, is مجمل, is a general meaning, is a general word that can carry more than one meaning. The word ظاهر, I just explained, ظاهر is the apparent meaning, but then if you have an indication, right, then it means something else. The lion means the real lion, the animal, but with an indication, it means a brave person, a brave young person, or a brave man. So it has more than, that's what is called mujmal. Mujmal, when something has more than, could be understood differently. The word ظاهر has that, because the apparent meaning without an indication is a lion. The apparent meaning with an indication, with supporting evidence, is a brave man. So you have two meanings for the same word ظاهر, apparent meaning. طيب يحتاج إلى تفصيل, and this word that carries more than one meaning, it needs detailing. You have to mention the details. فإن أريد بالظاهر ما يظهر من النصوص من الصفات التي تليق بالله من غير تشبيه. If what is meant now by the word ظاهر, apparent meaning, what appears from the texts of the attributes of Allah that are suitable to Him without resemblance, without making Allah resemble the creation, فهذا مراد قطعا. This is absolutely and definitely intended by the ayat. ومن قال إنه غير مراد, the one who says that it's actually not intended, فهو ضال إن اعتقده في نفسه, then he is deviant if he believed it within himself. وكاذب أو مخطئ إذا نسبه للسلف. So the one who says that it is not intended, فهو ضال إن اعتقده في نفسه, he is a deviant if he believed it within himself. وكاذب أو مخطئ, and he is a liar or just mistaken if he attributed it to the Salaf, إن نسبه إلى السلف. So the apparent meaning of الرحمن على العرش استوى is the ever merciful rose over the throne. That's the right meaning, right? So if this is what he's alluding to by saying الظاهر غير مراد, the apparent meaning is not intended, right? When الظاهر here is what appears from the texts of the attributes that are suitable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without likening Allah to His creation. And he's saying about this that, oh, it's not intended, right? This now, by him saying unintended, is either he's deviant within himself if he believed it within himself, and he is lying or mistaking if he is attributing it to the Salaf. وإن أريد بالظاهر ما قد يظهر لبعض الناس من أن ظاهرها تشبيه الله بخلقه فهذا غير مراد قطعا وليس هو ظاهر النصوص. If he meant by this word now ظاهر, right, apparent meaning, if he meant by it what appears to some people, how some people would understand the texts, right, that the apparent meaning is actually likening Allah to his creation. If this is what he understands from the word ظاهر here now, فهذا غير مراد قطعا. This is definitely not intended. وليس هو ظاهر النصوص. It is not the apparent meanings of the texts, definitely. Why? لأن مشابهة الله لخلقه أمر مستحيل. That is because likening Allah to his creation is something that is impossible. ولا يمكن أن يكون ظاهر الكتاب والسنة أمرا مستحيلا. It's not possible that the apparent meaning, the closest meaning that someone will understand from the Quran and the Sunnah would be something that is impossible, right? ومن ظن أن هذا هو ظاهرها فإنه يبين له أن ظنه خطأ. The one who thinks that this is the apparent meaning, then it must be clarified. It should be clarified to him, would clarify to him that his thought, ظن, what he thinks is wrong. وأن ظاهرها بل صريحها, and that the apparent meaning, rather not only the apparent meaning, the direct explicit meaning of those texts is إثبات صفات تليق بالله وتختص به, is to affirm attributes that are suitable to the majesty of Allah Azza wa Jal and that are specific and special to him سبحانه وتعالى. وبهذا التفصيل نكون قد أعطينا النصوص حقها لفظا ومعنى والله أعلم. With this detailing, we would be giving the texts their right, لفظا in terms of wording and in terms of meaning, and Allah knows best. Right? So this way that those later people, how they are describing the methodology of the Salaf in terms of the attributes of Allah, yani the way they present it is wrong. Right? How do they present it? The way of the Salaf is letting the text that came with the attributes of Allah, letting them pass, alongside believing that the apparent meaning is not intended. So this is has a problem in it. Why there is a problem? Because the word ظاهر has more than one meaning, so it's vague. Became vague. Why? Because it has more than one meaning. What do you mean by ظاهر? Oh, the Salaf don't believe in the ظاهر. What do you mean ظاهر? Apparent meaning. If you mean apparent meaning, the closest meaning that comes to the person who understands, right? Why are you saying this? The apparent meaning is a good meaning. It must be a good meaning, because if otherwise, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us about himself in a way that is misleading. Right? Remember I told you that if somebody gives a meaning to a word, right? Remember the sales contract. He says, oh, it's a gift. Where does it say here that it's a gift in the contract? If it says it needs to be told, at least some sort of indication that it's a gift. But if it's not there, then you cannot play with words and make the meaning different than what the apparent meaning is. طيب? So I hope this is understood. Next is في لبس الحق بالباطل من بعض المتأخرين. This is chapter number 6 now. How some of the later people, they mixed the truth with falsehood. لبس. So it made a confusion now. They confused the truth with falsehood. He says, قال بعض المتأخرين. Some of the later people, they said, إنه لا فرق بين مذهب السلف ومذهب المؤولين في نصوص الصفات. Those later people, they said, there is actually no difference between the methodology of the Salaf and the methodology of the مؤولين. مؤول, ta'wil, right? We understood that meaning of that word. The original meaning of ta'wil is interpretation. But for them, they mean by it what? The tahrif, the distortion, the misleading type of meaning, right? So they say actually the Salaf and those who falsely interpreted, right? To them, they're doing right interpretation, but we understand that they falsely interpreted the texts. في نصوص الصفات, there is no difference between them, the Salaf and those who did the false ta'wil, right? There is no difference between them. How? They say, فإن الكل اتفقوا, for all agreed, أن الآيات والأحاديث لا تدل على صفات الله. That the ayat, the verses, and the ahadith, the statements of the Prophet ﷺ, they do not prove, they do not indicate, they do not give us the attributes of Allah. They're not pointing out to the attributes of Allah. لكن المتأولين لكن المتأولون but المتأولون, those who interpreted, to us they falsely interpreted, they have done tahrif, distortion, right? So but those who interpreted رأوا المصلحة في تأويلها لمسيس الحاجة إليه وعينوا المراد. But those who interpreted, they saw the benefit, they saw the interest, maslaha, في تأويلها, in interpreting them, reality, distorting them, right? لمسيس الحاجة إليه, because of the dire need to it, dire need to the false interpretation that they have done. وعينوا المراد, and they actually specified what is intended. وأما السلف فأمسكوا عن التعيين. As for the Salaf, they withheld themselves from specifying the meaning of the ayah or the hadith لجواز أن يكون المراد غيره, because it is possible that what is intended is other than that. Let's just take an example. The yad, the attribute of the hand. What do they say? What do we know about the Salaf? They believe in the hand of Allah without tahrif, without falsely interpreting it, without asking how, right? بلا كيف, without يعني likening it to right, من غير تحريف ومن غير تعطيل, without denial, right? Without tahrif, without falsely interpreting, without asking about the how, right? Without asking about the how, right? They believe in that. So those later people, what did they say? Oh, the Salaf actually, they just believed in the yad, without really believing that Allah has a hand. Or they believe in a hand that they don't know what the meaning of it is. That's what they claim, the Salaf. But for the Khalaf, they said the hand could mean a power, quwwah. It could mean ni'mah, favor, right? So we will say in this here, it means the power. They specified what is intended, right? So again, what do they say? Oh, the Salaf and the Khalaf, they actually agree. There is no contradiction between them. Why? Because they all of them agreed that the ayat and the hadith, they are not talking actually about attributes of Allah. Huh? It's just that the later people, they saw that there is benefit in them specifying the meaning of the word. Yad, for instance, it means power, it means favor, right? So they saw benefit in that, so they specified the meaning. While the Salaf, they withheld themselves from talking at all, from talking about it at all, because they say it could mean hand, it could mean the word hand, could mean the power, could mean the favor, could mean something else, but we don't want to talk about this at all. So then they claim all of them generally agreed that there is no right, they all agreed on, and some of them nowadays are lectures, big lectures by big al-Allama Fulan and al-Allama Faltan. Nowadays, not later on, nowadays, they say, oh, everybody, they agreed on ta'wil. The Salaf did ta'wil and the Khalaf did ta'wil. What's your problem? Right? What's your problem? Why are you making them? Those people are trying to put everybody together. Let's love each other. Let's, agree with one another. It's a nice call, يعني, but then, with the, يعني, let's just agree with whatever problem we have, even though we are completely different in what we believe. We are Muslims, يا أخي. Right? We are Muslims, alhamdulillah, but then this is right and this is wrong. You cannot just combine, fire and water together, sunnah and bid'ah, and then mashallah, everybody's fine and dandy, yani everything looks good, yani mashallah, we are Muslims, but inside we know that everyone is going a different direction, right? So this is how they presented it. Now the Sheikh, what does he comment on that? Sheikh Ibn Uthaimeen, summarizing what Ibn Taymiyyah said. هذا كذب صريح على السلف. This is explicit, direct lie against the Salaf. فما منهم أحد نفى دلالة النصوص على صفات الله التي تليق به. There is none of them who negated the fact that the texts indicate dalala, indicating the attributes of Allah in the way that is befitting to His Majesty التي تليق به. بل كلامهم يدل على تقرير جنس الصفات. Rather, the words of the Salaf proves affirming the attributes in general. جنس الصفات, the genus of the attributes. The attributes of Allah as a topic, they affirm it. في الجملة, in general. والإنكار على من نفاها أو شبه الله بخلقه. And the way of the Salaf, right? It affirms the attributes generally, and also generally shuns and rejects, inkar, shuns and rejects the way of those who negate it, على من نفاها أو شبه الله بخلقه, or likens Allah to His creation. So the Salaf, they refute those who deny the attributes and those who liken Allah to His creation. Right? That's what we understand from their way. Now he's going to bring a statement. كقول نعيم بن حماد الخزاعي. نعيم ibn Hammad al-Khuzai. Like the statement of Nu'aym ibn Hammad al-Khuzai. This is now the Sheikh of al-Imam al-Bukhari. The Sheikh of al-Imam al-Bukhari. There's an authentic statement from him that says, من شبه الله بخلقه فقد كفر. The one who likens, the one who makes Allah similar to His creation, then he has disbelieved. ومن جحد ما وصف الله به نفسه فقد كفر. And the one who denies what Allah described himself, the attributes that Allah attributed to himself with, the one who denies that, فقد كفر, then has surely committed kufr. He has disbelieved. وليس ما وصف الله به نفسه ولا رسوله تشبيها. And whatever Allah described himself with of the attributes, and whatever his messenger described him with, there is no tashbih in that. There is no likening. There is no similitude. There is no resemblance in those words that are in the Quran or in the Sunnah about the attributes of Allah. None of that is making Allah resemble or look like any of his creation. No similitudes between Allah and his creation. Right? So this is an authentic statement from him. Yes, Nu'aym ibn Hammad, the Shaykh of Imam al-Bukhari. And there are وَكَلَامُهُمْ فِي هَذَا كَثِيرٌ. Their words in this regard are so many. If you remember now, I remind you, we will do it again, inshallah. From the Sunan of Imam al-Tirmidhi, the Sunan of Imam al-Tirmidhi, if you remember that, when he talked about that when you give a sadaqah, it falls in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah grows it up for you, right? To a point that it will become like a mountain. And a number of ahadith like that. So he mentioned one of these ahadith, and then he commented on that. Right? And he commented on that. Inshallah, we'll do it again. So it will be clear. طيب. ومما يدل على إثبات السلف للصفات, and what proves that the Salaf, they affirm the attributes, وأنهم ليسوا على وفاق مع أولئك المتأولين, and that they are not in agreement with those متأولين, with those who falsely interpret. أن أولئك المتأولة كانوا خصوما للسلف, that those who falsely interpret, right, متأولين, they were actually opponents to the Salaf. وكانوا يرمونهم بالتشبيه والتجسيم لإثباتهم الصفات, and they used to accuse them of tashbih, likening Allah to his creation, والتجسيم, that they believe that Allah is like a body, right, like the human bodies, like the bodies of the humans. Tajsim, we had that word before, huh? Those terms, they have to be understood, otherwise you're not going to follow what is being said. Why they accuse them of tashbih and tajsim? Because they affirm the attribute. Because they affirm the attributes. See, when you say, oh, Allah fi sama, right, in the heaven, they say this is, you are a mujassim, right? What is mujassim? Why are you saying that mujassim? Yeah, jism. Yani you're claiming that Allah is a body, like the human bodies, right? And if you remember, we had that discussion there. We had that discussion before. So every time you need to, if you are missing out on this, you need to go back and check this, right? Those words like jism, body, hayyiz, occupying a space, right? And the words like them, makan, does Allah have a makan, place or not, right? You say Allah fi sama, Allah ala al-arsh istawa. You're claiming that Allah has a place now. What do you mean a place? Right? This is what the fight is there all over, right? And it continues today, right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, in Hajjatul Wada', he says, you are going to be asked about me. Did I deliver the message? They say, we testify you did. He says, Allahumma shahad. He points his finger to the sky. For them, they say, if you point at him, then you are making him a body, a jism. Like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he pointed. Right? And they say, if you do that, right? I heard a khutbah like this. Khutbah Jumu'ah, I attended myself here in Canada. In the khutbah, the guy was reading from, he was a good brother, rahimahullah. He was a good brother. He meant no harm. I'm just saying, he thought this is, so he was reading from the paper. And if you point at him, then you are making him. The good thing is, he doesn't understand what he was saying. And I'm sure those who were sitting, they don't know what he's saying. That's the good part of it. But the content is kufr. The content is disbelief. This is a khutbah I personally attended here in Canada. Right? Not anywhere else. Small city in the north called Sudbury. Right? That was the khutbah al-Jumu'ah. If you point at him, then what is this? So that's what it is here. Right? So you cannot say those who, how can you say Allah fi sama? That's what the Salaf do. Those who believe in the Salafi way, that's what they do. Salafi way about the attributes of Allah. Those mutaakhirin, mutaawwilin, muharrifin, they say if you point at him, you are saying he's like the creation, he's a body. And you are putting him restricting him in a specific place. You remember, we had that discussion before, and it will come more, because next there will come about Allah fi sama. What does it mean? Al-Arsh, stawa ala al-Arsh, because those are different. Allah yanzil, Allah comes down. The meanings of those things, طيب. So how can they be agreeing? No, they want to end up saying all of them, they did some sort of ta'wil. The Salaf and the Khalaf, they did ta'wil. So they agree in general. Just those, they kept quiet. The Salaf kept quiet. But the Khalaf, they spoke and they decided that this ayah here, it means this. This attribute here, it means this. And this one means this. And that's the difference. So they're trying to do some bridge building, which is, and really messing things completely up. So he says, how is it if they are agreeing? Why is this tension, khusuma, this dispute, right, between them, and they are like accusing them of making tashbih, making Allah looking like his creation, tajsim, claiming that Allah is like a body, right, created body, لإثباتهم الصفات, because they affirm the attributes. ولو كان السلف يوافقونهم في عدم دلالة النصوص على صفات الله, if the Salaf, they agreed with them that the attributes, that the text do not indicate or do not mean attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal, لم يجعلهم خصوما, they wouldn't make them their opponents for themselves. لم يجعلهم خصوما لهم ويرمونهم بالتشبيه, they won't accuse them of likening Allah to his creation, والتجسيم, that Allah is like a body, like a human body, or like the created body. وهذا ظاهر ولله الحمد. This is quite apparent, ظاهر, quite apparent, ولله الحمد, to Allah belongs all the praise. طيب, so that's for today. Right, and الباب السابع, next one, في أقوال السلف المأثورة في الصفات, regarding the statements, the reported statements of the Salaf about the attributes, right? Like أمروها كما جاءت بلا كيف, let the attributes pass as they have come, without asking how, right? This this is one of these statements, and he will, inshallah, go through it and explain it. Because strange, the Khalaf, they will use it to support their way. When it cannot. If you really make sense out of words, it cannot. أمروها كما جاءت. Let those texts containing those attributes, let them pass as they have come, بلا كيف, without asking how. For them, they will say, look, see, the Salaf, they say, let those الرحمن على العرش استوى ما منعك أن تسجد لما خلقت. Let them pass without how. What do they understand? Just let them pass. Don't understand anything from them. This is how they understood it. But if you look closely, let them pass as they have come. With their meanings. That's why they said, but don't talk about the how. Do not ask how. If you let them pass without meaning, you don't understand anything from them, what is the point of saying without a how now? Right? The way they understood it is just so much confused. So much confused. They understood from that statement that the Salaf do not understand anything about the attributes of Allah. They just remain quiet, let them pass, don't talk about it. Right? Let it pass, they don't understand anything from it, and know how. That's it. That's how they understood it. But if you look closely in the words, right? If you're saying let them pass without any meaning, if something doesn't have a meaning at all, why are you saying don't say how? It doesn't even have a meaning. What's the how of nothing? Right? So how can you say don't say how about something that doesn't mean anything? The how of what? The how of nothing? So this is what he's going to talk about next time, inshallah. And we are getting there slowly but surely. Next to that, الباب الثامن في علو الله تعالى وأدلة العلو, the highness of Allah Azza wa Jal and the proofs for the highness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الباب التاسع, chapter 9, في الجهة, direction. Do you say about Allah is in a direction of the highness, or you use the direction, or you don't use the word jihah? Do you use it or not use it? Next is الباب العاشر في استواء الله على عرشه, Allah rising or ascending his throne subhanahu wa ta'ala. One thing is the highness of Allah, and him ascending his throne, that's another thing, right? That's another meaning, right? So what does that mean? What is al-arsh? What is al-arsh? What is al-kursi? After that, الباب الحادي عشر في المعية, the accompaniment of Allah. Allah is with the creation. But you said he is above 7 heavens, right? Over his throne. But he is with. Right? What does it mean? He is accompaniment. Right? And there is a special accompaniment, المعية الخاصة, and there is the general accompaniment, المعية العامة. Right? In the Ghar, Rasulullah sallallahu and Abu Bakr, he says, لا تحزن, do not be sad. Allah is with us. So he's with Abu Bakr and Rasulullah sallallahu. He's not with the mushrikeen, right? That's a special type of accompaniment. He's accompanying them with his support, with his help, with his assistance, with his protection. He's not with the kuffar in that regard, but he is with all, generally, knowing what is happening, watching what is going on, observing, right? So, Allah is high above his throne, right? And he's with at the same time. Right? Then he will talk about an-nuzul, right? right? And before that, combining between the texts of Allah being high himself, subhanahu wa ta'ala bidhati wa ma'iyatih. There is no contradiction between him above his throne and him being with, right, his accompaniment. Then after that, Allah's coming down to the lower heaven, right? He will talk about that. That's the 13th chapter, and he will talk about combining between the texts of Allah is high in himself and him coming down to the lower heaven, right? He is high above over his throne, and then he comes down to the lower heaven, right? Subhanallah al-Azim, right? قريب في علوه علي في دنوه. Just two small statements يعني combines everything. This is from العقيدة الواسطية by Shaykh al-Islam. Right? قريب في علوه. Although he is high above subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is so close. علي في دنوه. He is all high when he gets nearer and gets closer to his servants. Still he is high. When he gets closer, when he comes down, he doesn't become low. He's still the all high. Al-Ali al-A'la al-Muta'al, always high. Right? Why? Because he's not like his creation. If he's like you and me, if I'm under, I'm not above. If I'm above, I'm not under. But Allah is not like me or you. Right? He can be high above over his throne and he comes down. He comes down to the lower heaven. Right? And this was also discussed in the other book by the Sheikh Abdul Hadi Wahbi, right? The names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's just that this one, as you can see, it's meant to rebuttal. It's a book of arguments and like cornering the opponent. Right? That's why I thought it wasn't like for everybody to attend, right? And that's why we chose Sunday morning for it, right? So that those who are intended, those who want this subject, they will come to watch it, right? To try to understand it, because it's not meant for everybody. Some people, they will, why are we talking about this? Khalas, Ar-Rahmanu ala arsh istawa, we believe in that and we're done. Khalas, you believe in that, you're okay. We don't have to, especially there are other matters of the deen that you want to know more about. And this is one of the problems that we, are facing because of, especially now, not only the many books and, but the lectures and the YouTubers and the many institutes of knowledge that were established, the many universities, the many colleges, the many online institutes, right? And their curriculum has the stuff that, everyone is trying to teach their way, right? So some of us might be exposed to somebody here or there. So they got somehow, shaky or confused about something. So they want to understand what's going on. Why the belief of the Salaf is right? Right? Why is it right? Why do we have to believe in those attributes of Allah in this way? So those, they want to know more details. So, come and listen to that. Right? And sometimes this will require some sort of refutation, and this is wrong. This is and you might have to go through some information that needs focus and studying and all of that. So that's why we are doing this, inshallah, for those who need it. If you don't need it, even those who are online, and if you don't need it, then you don't need it, at least for this time, until you get into a position where you can put in some time and effort in this. Otherwise, don't trouble yourself going through this or the other side, right? The other side. And we're trying to present it actually in a friendly way here. We're trying to present it in a friendly way, not in a. We're not in a fight with anybody. Even those, like I told you, that speaker was an old man, yani. The one who gave the khutbah, and don't point to him. If you point to him, I'm sure he doesn't know what he's talking about. I am sure of that. But this is what he was told. So you don't have to be fighting with people like everyone is like a real deviant. La, not necessarily. People say things they don't even know. They think that this is the right thing. Not necessarily they are bad people. They're not necessarily so. They could be actually better than many who claim they are on the right. والعياذ بالله, يعني really, you have some information better than others. It doesn't mean you are closer to Allah. That's why you find people flipping all the way. Flip from all sides, from all groups. Everyone looks like, well, mashallah, he's on the deen, he's just tough, he's firm, and then the next thing is, wal'iyadhu billah, right? He's a totally different person. Wal'iyadhu billah. I'm sure you have seen those people over time, right? So Allah knows best. We try to learn and have always sincerity and fearing Allah with that, and busy yourself with yourself, not attacking fulan and attacking faltan. Busy yourself building your knowledge and becoming a better Muslim, right? And the first and the foremost of the subjects that you need to know is about Allah. Who is Allah? Who is Allah? And when you look at basic things like the translation of the Quran, you are giving translation of the meaning of the Quran out, right? You will find, as I told you, that that he rose, ascended the throne, between brackets, ascended the throne of authority, right? Of authority. That's the explanation of he's in full control. Although he says established himself firmly, that's the translation. Established himself firmly, between brackets, on the throne, between brackets, of authority. This is something that you are giving out, and many people actually got this and they read it. Probably they don't get much out of it. They just let it pass, right? So but we need to know what is this and where did it come from, so we understand what is the right thing. Allah knows best. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan. If you